This story is a warning, but you won't understand until it's too late. When Emily first moved into the small house on the outskirts of town, she was drawn to its charm. Old, affordable, and secluded. It was just what she needed. A quiet place to start fresh after a difficult breakup. The house had a cozy feel to it, despite its age. The kind of place that would be perfect for a fresh start, she thought. At first, everything seemed normal. The creaks of the wooden floors felt comforting, like the house was settling into her presence. She found comfort in the small quirks, like the way the front door creaked when opened, or the faint sound of wind rattling the windows. It was just an old house after all, nothing to worry about. But soon, Emily began to notice small things. Nothing too alarming at first. A spoon out of place in the kitchen, a book slightly askew on the shelf, a door left ajar when she was certain she had closed it. At night, she would sometimes hear soft whispers, like distant voices calling her name. When she'd wake up, the house would be silent again, and she'd chalk it up to a bad dream. Then the items started disappearing. Small things at first. A pen, a hairbrush, a pair of socks. She'd searched the entire house, convinced they had to be somewhere, only to find them later in places she hadn't left them. One evening, she came home to find her coat hanging on the back of the chair, even though she never took it off in the living room. Someone, or something, was moving things. One night, as the whispers grew louder, Emily decided she couldn't ignore it anymore. She followed the sound, her feet carrying her into the attic. The air was thick with dust, the shadows thick in the corners of the room, and that's when she saw it. A small, old trunk in the farthest corner of the attic, half hidden under a faded blanket. Her heart pounded as she approached it. She opened the trunk slowly, the hinges squealing. Inside, there was nothing but an old, leather-bound diary. She ran her fingers over its cover, feeling a strange chill ripple through her. With trembling hands, she opened it. The first entry was dated over 50 years ago, written by a woman named Margaret. The words spilled out onto the pages in elegant, almost sorrowful handwriting. As Emily read, she learned that Margaret and her family had lived in the house many years ago. They had been a small, happy family. Margaret, her husband, and their 2 children. But one night, a terrible fire had swept through the house, taking them all. Emily felt a tightness in her chest as she read on. Margaret's final entry spoke of a mother's grief, the pain of losing her family, of watching them burn in the flames while she was trapped. The last words written were a desperate plea. "I can't leave them, not without them." Emily felt a cold gust of wind pass by her, as though the house itself were breathing. She quickly turned to leave, but froze when she heard it. The whispers again, only this time they were louder. The voice was clearer, and it sounded like it was right behind her. "Please, help me," it whispered, desperate and full of sorrow. Fear surged through Emily, but it wasn't the fear of being harmed. It was something different, a deep, aching sadness. She realized, suddenly, that the spirit wasn't here to scare her. She wasn't angry. She wasn't vengeful. She was simply lost, just like the house. Margaret was still here, holding on to the memory of her family, trapped in a world of sorrow. The next day, Emily went to the local library and asked about the fire. She learned that the house had indeed burned down many years ago, taking the lives of Margaret and her children. The town had forgotten about them, but Emily knew now that the house had not. It had kept the memories of its former occupants alive, bound by grief. That evening, Emily sat in the attic, holding the diary in her hands. She spoke softly, hoping Margaret could hear her. "You're not alone," Emily whispered. "You can let go now. They're not coming back, but you don't have to stay here anymore." As the words left her lips, the temperature in the room seemed to shift. The air grew lighter, and for the first time since moving in, Emily felt a sense of peace settle over the house. The whispers faded away, and the items that had moved on their own no longer did. The house seemed to sigh with relief. Its long-held grief finally starting to loosen its grip. Emily stayed in the house for several months after that. It never felt quite the same again. It felt like home. And every so often, when she sat quietly at night, she would swear she heard a faint whisper in the wind. But now, it was softer, more like a thank you than a plea. In the end, the house had not been haunted by malice, but by the longing of a mother who had never been able to let go of her family. And Emily, in her own way, had helped her find peace. Hit subscribe and don't dare miss what's coming next. Or the next scream you hear might be your own.